Hi beauties, welcome back again to my channel. So today's video I want to share with you my top 10 palettes. It may be 11 or 12 because I do have a lot of favorites, but I'm going to show you my top 10 palettes and the number one palette that I can't live without. So let's get right into this palette top 10 smackdown. So my number one palette that I can't live without, that I have to have, like whenever I do finish this palette, which I know it's going to be a while, I will definitely repurchase because I love this palette, and if they ever discontinue it, I don't know what I would do. So my number one palette is the Urban Decay Naked palette, the original one. I love this palette because you have like the warmer shade, so I love that about it. And I like that at the end it has a little bit darker shades, so you can do or create smoky looks if you want to. But me, I personally like all the warmer shades, so like the gold. And this color is Sin, this is one of my favorite colors. And then Virgin as well, I love that for like a crease or a brow highlight. And then Sin for the lid. And then between Naked and Buck, I like to use that as crease shades. So this is my number one favorite palette that I always need to have. So it's definitely a must-have palette. So my second favorite palette is another palette that was really hyped up on YouTube, and this is why I bought it, was because of YouTube. So the palette I'm talking about is the Lorac Pro Palette, the original one. This one is so amazing, just like the Urban Decay one. It kind of has the same concept where it's all like warmer shades and it's neutrals with a little bit of the smoky darker shades to create those smoky looks. It's definitely not a dupe for the Urban Decay original palette, but it's kind of very similar in the sense where they have the warm tones and the lighter and darker shades. And my cat decides she wants to come in the picture because she wants to scratch her nails. I need you to move. You're interrupting my video process. Say hi to the camera. Look, look. You get a row of matte and a row of shimmery shades. This palette is still available as well as the original Naked palette, so you can still pick this up. Now the next palette I'm going to show you is my number 3 favorite palette. It is pretty new, but I definitely fit it in the top 3 because this is such an awesome palette. So it is the Gwen Stefani with Urban Decay collaboration palette. It's absolutely gorgeous on the outside. I love the packaging. I love that it has gold, but the inside is pretty awesome. You get all these shades here. But this, again, it's more of the warmer shades, and it has a few pop of color and darker shades, but I love all the warm shades because I'm just all in for warm shades. So you can definitely use this to do smoky looks or just a natural look. You only get about 4 matte shades, 3 that are like the crease shades, and then the black is matte, but everything else is shimmery. But this is definitely for that type of girl who loves neutral shades. Number 4 is going to be the Tartelette palette from Tarte. And I love the packaging. It is slim, it is sleek, it has the gold feature. I love that it has a pretty decent size mirror here, and then it is completely matte. If you are like a matte type of girl, you don't like shimmery shadows or glittery, this is definitely something you should look for. And again, this is for anyone who likes warm tone shades. This one has been one of my favorites. I've been going to this palette quite often, and I just love the shades in here. You definitely can create like beautiful natural looks. Number 5 is actually a custom-made palette from MAC. This is my MAC palette that I created, and these are all shades that I picked up randomly at different times. Like, I didn't do this all in one. I do love that they have these palettes that you can purchase and you can create your own, and it's pretty sleek and thin. And these are the shades in my palette. So as you can see, I just love neutrals and warm shades, warm tone shades. So I have a bunch of them here. I think my all-time favorite would be this one, which is Satin Taupe. This is perfect for day or night looks. And then Vanilla, I love this shade. I've actually hit pan, so I'm excited that I get to repurchase this one. And then I have more of like the browns here and pinks. I'm actually going to put all the names of the shadows that are in this palette down in the description box below, so you can check them out. So I'm going to list them by name going from top to bottom for each column. That way you can tell what's in the palette. So my next palette is actually a really affordable palette that you can pick up at the drugstore or your local grocery stores that sells makeup. This palette, I think it's absolutely amazing. So this one is the L'Oreal La Palette Nude 1. This is actually made in my top 6 because I reach for it so much. I just absolutely love the shades that are in here because you have, again, all warm shades and there's a good amount of matte shades. We got 1, 2, 3. Actually, there's only 3, but the 3, like this one and then these 2, I do use these often. Number 3 here is my most favorite shade for my crease. This is the one I've used a lot, and then also the first shade I use a lot for highlighting on the brow bone. It does have great pigmentation on that one here. And then the colors on the end are pretty good if you want to do a more dramatic or smoky look. That's what they look like. But this is definitely an awesome palette. It's 20 bucks at the store, and I would definitely recommend this palette. The next palette, when I first saw it, I just had to have. So the palette I'm talking about is the Too Faced Stardust palette by Vegas Nay. I absolutely love following her on Instagram. I love all her posts. But this palette is definitely a really awesome palette. The colors are beautiful. The pigmentations are amazing. These two here are some of my favorite. This is Pink Pearl and Strip. I just love those shades. And then on the top, Chandelier and Millennial, I can't say the word, Millennial, and this one is Girls Night. They're just awesome, awesome, awesome. So like I said, this one was $45. It came in a package set. I believe it was limited edition, but I definitely like this palette. It's my number 6 favorite. So next palette, I really contemplated where I wanted to put it in my top 10. This is the Urban Decay Naked 2 palette. I love this palette. Again, this has more warmer tones and one really dark shade in the black here, and this is definitely like a serious black shade. It's called Blackout. It is super black like, but I love this shade or this palette. I love all the colors in here. Some of my favorites, like Half Baked is always like in almost every palette that Urban Decay does, so I feel like that's more common. But Foxy is a great highlighting shade. Tease is a great crease shade. Booty Call is a great lid shade, as well as Suspect. Urban Decay is like my all-time favorite makeup brand because their eyeshadows are amazing. They're always super pigmented. I'm never disappointed with Urban Decay palettes. I feel like no matter which palette you pick up from Urban Decay, you're gonna have something that's like a classic Urban Decay shade, and you're not gonna be disappointed with their palettes. So for 9th place, this is an all-time classic Urban Decay palette. This is actually my first Urban Decay purchase ever. When I saw this, I went into Ulta one day and I wasn't really into makeup then. I had just started like learning more about makeup at the time, and I walked into Ulta and I saw this palette on display and I was like, oh my goodness. I saw the price tag, it was like 50 something, like oh my goodness. I had never bought makeup for that price before, so I was like, they are crazy. How can they charge this much? So I went home, I did my research, and then I figured out, you know, okay, it comes down to about $8 a shadow. I was sold, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to try it. The palette I'm talking about is the Urban Decay Alice in Wonderland palette. I didn't really want to include it because you can't purchase this anymore. You can maybe find it on eBay or Amazon, but it's really cool because you can open it on the side and it pops up with the little Alice in Wonderland, and it has a little drawer. You can pull it out. You can actually take this entire thing out, so you can just have the palette and you can store this, but I like to keep it in there. It did come with 2 eyeliners and a mascara, but the colors are absolutely beautiful. They match the movie so well. You have Underland, you have Alice, Oraculum, Queen, Chester, White Rabbit, Wonderland, Curious, Muchness, Mushroom, Midnight Tea Party, Whirl, Absalon, Drink Me, Eat Me, Mad Hatter, and Jabberwocky. So my favorite shade of this entire palette is Muchness. It is absolutely beautiful. It's just beautiful. It's like that peachy with that gold sheen to it. It's just absolutely beautiful. And then Queen is another great one. Get it? Great one? Queen. Oraculum is another great shade. Absalon, which is the green, and that's Underland. and that one's Atlas. Like you can see, these are super pigmented, beautiful. I absolutely love this palette. I wouldn't trade it for anything. So we are to the end of this top 10 palette video, and for number 10 it was so hard to decide and I couldn't decide, so I'm just gonna show you the 3 palettes that I have that takes number 10 place. So this one here is the Marc Jacobs palette. It comes in a little pouch and it looks like that. Beautiful palette. And this has like some warm shades, and it has like a gold and like a real like yellow gold, and then like a bluish shade, more frosty, and a brownish shade. I just absolutely love this palette. The first 3 shades in this palette is my absolute favorites. Let me swatch it for you. This palette is called the Starlet palette. It's absolutely beautiful. Definitely pricey, and you only get 7 shadows in here. Also competing in the number 10th place is the Lorac Pro 2 palette, which I like this palette as well. Like the first one, it has the same concept where it's all matte shades and then shimmery shades. And this one is definitely more cooler toned, even though it has the browns, but it definitely has more cooler shades in this palette. So you have like the navy, you have plum, there is nectar, which is one of my favorite shades. I also love the bottom shades here. These 3 are absolutely beautiful. So this is another favorite of mine that's competing for the number 10th spot. And the third palette that I just couldn't decide because I love it is the Urban Decay Naked Smoky palette. The packaging is so beautiful. It has a nice big mirror and it has beautiful shades. This is more cool tone because you have all those smoky eyeshadow looks, which you can definitely still do a natural look with this palette and still have all the different shades of smoky looks that you want. Even though it is a smoky palette, you can do a natural look. This first shade here, High, it's absolutely beautiful. It's definitely more of a chalkier shade because it does have a lot of fallout, but it's beautiful. It stays on amazingly. Another one of my favorite is the Amore shade. This one is beautiful. It has shimmer in it, but you don't get a lot of fallout. You'll have a little bit of fallout, but not much. Smolder is a nice plummy shade. Combust. So as with all the Urban Decay palettes, they are beautiful, super pigmented. This is your go-to smoky look palette. So these 3, I couldn't decide which one would be number 10 because I like all 3 of them. So guys, this is it for my top 10 palettes, even though it was 12 palettes. I say check out for sure the Naked 1 palette, as well as the new Urban Decay and Gwen Stefani palette, and the third one would be the L'Oreal palette. So definitely check them out, and the Pro palettes, the Lorac Pro ones. Check them out. Tell me what you think. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to rate and subscribe, and you can also follow me on social media. That's gonna be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. And guys, have a great week. Until next time, I will see you all later. Bye.